All right, hello folks watching this video. This is 8-6, and this is actually just the first half of 8-6. We're going to go over the second half on Monday. Law of sines. There's only like 5 homework problems, I think, for this. But the law of sines has 2 concepts that we're going to talk about today. One of them is the area of a triangle. So I'm going to put a number 1 next to that. And then the other one, the second one, is the actual law of sines itself. So we're going to talk about those 2 things today and then be done. Okay? The first thing that we talk about with the law of sines... First thing for law of sines is area of a triangle. Okay, check this out. I'm going to refer to this triangle up here at the top. And you probably or should know, that the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Right? Agreed? Okay, but when you have a triangle that's labeled like this, you might know these sides, right? Like let's say this side is 17 and this side is 8 and this side is... I don't know, 12. Now we got to switch those around. Let's make this one 12 and this one 8. Whatever. Anyway, you know that information, and then you might know like this angle down over here in this corner, and that's like a 50-degree angle or something like that, right? That's some information that you know, okay? So how do I find the area of this thing if we don't know like the height of it? Because the height is technically this height, right? The base is going to be 17. But the height is like we don't have a label for it, right? So we could do 1/2 times the base is 17 times the height, which is what we don't know, right? So what we do is we say, okay, how do you find the height, all right? Well, if we look at just this triangle right here, just this green one, okay? Let's talk about the height in relationship to that triangle. This is a right triangle. So we can talk about this angle. If we know that angle down there in the corner, we can say that the height is opposite. And let's talk about C. He is the hypotenuse of that triangle, right? Okay. So we would do sine, and we would do sine of whatever that angle A is equal to the opposite, which they have labeled as H, over the hypotenuse, which they have labeled as C, right? And then if we have this going on, how do we solve that for H?
What?
How would we solve this for H? Multiply the C to the other side, right? C over here. Okay, so H is going to be equal to C times sine of capital A, right? Okay, so this is how this works. If I'm doing the H over here, rather than typing in, or rather than having an actual height, I can do C times sine of A, okay? Well, what is the C value here in my example that I've used? 12. And what's A?
The area?
Like capital A.
The angle.
The angle. Do you know what the angle I said was? I don't remember. 50? 50. So we plug 50 in, and then all we do is compute that in my calculator, and that will give me the area. So the height, when they give you the area formula over here, this is 1/2 the base, but the height is represented as C times sine of A. Does that make sense? And then we can use that to find the area of this triangle. Okay, now here's the deal. It doesn't matter what the sides are labeled as. It doesn't matter what the sides are labeled as. The formula says 1/2 BC sine of A. Okay? We had this labeled as 50, this labeled as 17, this labeled as 12. We really didn't need this side over here. But all you're going to do is you're going to have one of your angles, that's going to go in for A, and then these two, B and C, are the 2 sides that are right next to that angle, the adjacent ones, right? So when we go down here to solve this guy, we have 1/2 BC sine of A, except A isn't the angle that I'm looking at, right? We don't know that angle. The only angle that I know is C, but it doesn't matter that it's called C. We just put the angle in right here. This is going to be my 104 degrees. And then the 2 sides that I need to put in these 2 spots just have to be the 2 sides that are touching my angle. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So it doesn't matter that they're called B and C, or it doesn't matter that it's called angle A or angle C, whatever. It's just the 2 sides that you plug into the formula have to be the 2 sides that are right next to your angle right here. So all we need to do is plug that in. And it doesn't really matter which one you plug in for B and which one you plug in for C, except, so this is what my formula is going to look like. I have to put 8 and 9 into those 2 spots. Which one would you like to put first? It doesn't matter, but
9.
I want to put in
9.
8 first.
Haha.
And the reason why I want to do that is because is it easier to take half of 8 or half of 9?
8.
Half of 8, half of 8 is 4, and then I take 4 times 9, and that's 36. So I can just type in 36 sine of 104. Does that make sense? To find the area. All right. Somebody have a calculator? You want to type that in for me?
Not really.
I think it's like 32 or something.
No, it's not done.
Blah, 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 blah. 36 times sine of 104.
I can't reach it. Evan's got it. We're dragging without Jalen and Haley.
20.1.
20. Whoa, really?
36 times sine of
104.
104.
Yeah.
34.9.
34.9.
Mm-hmm.
34.9. That's not a degree. That is the area, and the area is in centimeters squared. Centimeters squared. Okay. All right. Do you guys have your homework page in front of you? They only give me one example to do for area, but we're going to practice with another example. We're going to do a homework assignment together.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to do number 2 for homework on skills practice. We're going to do number 2 together. You will have to do number 1 for homework. Okay. But we're going to do number 2 together. So we have 1/2 BC sine of A. That's the formula, except they don't give me angle A. They give me angle B. But it doesn't matter where they're located, just as long as the 2 sides that I'm given are adjacent to the angle, right? Are the 2 sides that I'm given adjacent to the angle? Yes. So I just plug them in. B and C can go wherever they want to, sine of the angle, which is 35. Okay? All right, would you like to put the 7 first or the 3 first?
The 3.
If one of those was an even number, I would put that one first because half of it would be nice. But half of 3 and half of 7, they're both odd numbers, so it doesn't really matter. Which one? 3, and 7. Half of 3 is 1.5. 1.5 of 7 is really gross. I don't know. Just type all that in. 1.5 times 7 times sine of 35. 6.0, and that is in feet squared because we're doing area. Okay, so doesn't matter what the B's and the C's and the A's and stuff are, just as long as your 2 sides are adjacent to the angle that they give to you. Okay, good. All right, let's go back to the notes, and we're going to do regular law of sines. Okay.
Do you just want to keep our answer as a squared?
What? It'll be feet. Is it feet? Was it feet? Feet squared. That's just the units that you put on the back of area. So 6.0 feet squared. Yep, square feet. Okay.
That's true.
All right. Law of sines. You ready for this? We will eventually put this formula on a note card before you take the test for this chapter later on, because we'll have to do the law of sines, and then 8.7, section 8.7 is the law of cosines, okay? But the law of sines, this is for non-right triangles, like obtuse triangles or acute triangles. That's when you use the law of sines, okay? Law of sines. You can only use SOHCAHTOA when it is a right triangle, like sine, cosine, tangent, opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent, those things. You can only do that for right triangles, but these are for non-right triangles, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to use sine in a proportion to solve things about non-right triangles, and here's the proportion. You can do sine of A over A equals sine of B over B. This is the formula for the law of sines, okay? Now, capital letters, if you haven't figured this out already, what do capital letters stand for? Angles. Angles are capital letters. And then lowercase letters, A and B, are sides, okay? So what I can do is I can put the sine of angle A over side A equals sine of angle B over side B. And I set this up as a proportion. And then I can cross multiply and divide and do all that good stuff. Now, the formula also says equal to sine C over C. Okay, so you really have 3 of them equal to each other, but you will only ever do 2 of them at a time, right? So kind of like when we were dividing the triangles out, we were making a small triangle, a medium triangle, a large triangle. one of the triangles you're not going to use. Like the medium triangle, you'll cross off and you only compare the small and the large, right? So what we can do is, you don't necessarily have to write this down, but if we are comparing A and C, we can do sine of A over A equals sine of C over C. You're just only ever using two of them at a time. Does that make sense? But you can do any of the sides over any of the angles, just as long as you are just doing two at a time, okay? The formula down below that you'll see has all of them together.
Have a fire during the day, about 1 o'clock or a little bit after. So this is your warning from me. Make sure you have something warm up.
I'll be
Okay.
smart. It's fine.
Nice. Okay. So you can use any of the three to set them up together. Okay. So we're gonna do example 2, and then we'll be done. Maybe we'll. I don't know. Maybe we'll do it. Okay. Solve triangle ABC. And when it says solve the triangle, it says find everything that you need. So we're going to solve for angle A, angle B, angle C. We're going to solve for little a, little b, and little c. We're going to solve all of the things. Some of the stuff we know and some of the stuff we don't know. Okay. So we're going to label things that we know. Okay. I don't know angle A, but I do know angle B. What's angle B? 45. Angle C is 80. Now, wait a second.
We can just subtract.
You can subtract from 180. So I'm going to put 180 over here just as a little hint because the two angles added together have to be added up to be 180, or the three angles, I guess. So if I add those together, this is 125. And if I subtract, that is like 55 degrees. 55 degrees. Okay, so now we've solved angle A already. All right, now we have to decide 3 that's sitting over here. Is that little a, little b, little c? Angel says little c. Why?
Because that's the only one that works.
It's opposite of capital C, and because it's the only one that it doesn't have, right? You want to go answer that phone? That'd be great.
I think my logic is better.
Little c is 3.
I forgot about the opposite thing.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. Okay.
Who?
If she asks after you get done teaching, you can call April.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, I got
All right, so little c is 3. All right, we're almost done. Now, here's the deal. We're going to set up like our sine function, but looking at this information, we have a group. We have a pair of information that we know everything about. What do we know everything about? We know all of the, but like as far as ABC goes. We have all of the C information, right? So in our sine formula, we have to use the C stuff. So I'm going to do sine of 80 over 3 because that's sine, like this is sine C over C, right? Sine C over C, we're using sine of 80 over 3. We're going to set that equal to, and we have to decide, are you wanting to solve for A or B first?
B.
B, okay. So we're going to do sine of what? 45 over B, and B is what we're solving for. Do we see how this works?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to cross multiply those guys. 3 sine of 45 is equal to, and what will the other side look like? I'm going to do B sine of 80. Okay, now I'm wanting to solve for B. So how do I get this B by itself? How do I get the sine of
80 or divide by sine of 80.
divide by sine of 80?
Sine of 80 does it.
Okay, divide by sine of 80. So I should be able to just type this whole thing into my calculator. 3 sine of 45 divided by sine of 80 and get the answer. B equals, I think it was like 2.15.
Can you just take like do the thingy thing where you like boop boop and so like sine 45 times 3 divided by sine of 80? And, like just do it from the proportions, or do you have to write it out?
You don't have to write it out. You don't have to write it out. No. If it makes sense to you to cross multiply and divide and do it all in your head, that's fine. I'm just writing out what we're doing.
Like it doesn't change with the signs.
What do you mean?
Like if there's signs in there, it still is fine.
What?
Doing the like sine 45 and just doing it like times 3 divided by just like doing it all in one. It doesn't change.
Yes, no. As long as, so like your calculator, when it does it, it will a lot of times like open up a set of parentheses. You need to make sure you close it off before you hit any other operations. Yes, good question. Okay, so 2.15 is what we get for B. If you type that all in, that's what you should get. Okay, so 2.15 is here. Now, we want to solve for A. We can do exactly the same operation again. So going down here to this, but what's going to change?
It's not gonna be,
The 45.
The 45 is going to change to
55.
55, and this B changes to an A now. But we still can use the sine of 80 over 3. So now we do the same thing again. I'm going to do this bubble, which is 3 sine of 55, equals A times sine of 80. And to get A by itself, we divide by sine 80. Divide by sine 80. And A is equal to whatever that is. I think it is, I don't remember. Somebody got it? Somebody want to type it in? 3 sine of 55 over sine of 80. Evan. 55. 55. Divided by sine 80.
2.48.
Yes. 2.48. So, yeah, 2.48 is the number that we will use. Okay, good? So that is solving for those other ones. You use that proportion, you cross multiply and divide and do all that good stuff. Hold on.
these are from acres.
Oh, joy. Okay, okay. All right, sound good? Okay, so we're going to wait for the backside on Monday because that's like a lot of information that I just gave to you, or a lot of different formulas. So what I want you to do is on skills practice. We just did 2 together. You're going to do 1 and 7 and 8. And then you're going to do number 5 on the backside. And that's all for homework. That's all.
Okay.
I mean, that should take you enough time, right? All right, good?
I don't
Okay.
really feel like doing this.
That's all that I have for you. Say bye, people in the video.